Hey beauties, how are you doing? I hope that you are doing well. I am doing decent and I am just trying to soak up all the sun I can on the days that it's warm. It's so funny that I can go outside in the morning and it will be, comfortable. Then it gets to being warm to hot. Then it gets to being cold. It is a constant guess of what the weather is going to be like. So, I didn't know if I wanted to do this or not. I kind of wanted to blog about it, so I may just post this later when I actually do the blog. Um, we all know that I moved to Massachusetts and I had to switch insurance and gather new doctors. For me, the most important doctors is obviously the general doctor, the cardiologist, and a neuro doctor. I haven't seen a neuro doctor yet, which is not a good thing, but I will eventually. Or did I? No, I didn't. So eventually I will see a neuro doctor, but right now we're working on getting me to see a doctor for my back and then a doctor for my arms. I'm thinking that I have carpal tunnel that is acting up really bad. I know in the past was told I had a very light case of carpal tunnel, so that may have just gotten worse. Last week was my OBGYN appointment, and I'm still a little confused and mixed up on the feelings I have about it. So how this was is I went in once before and met the doctor, which they had messed up the scheduling, and I had thought that I was going to get a PAP and all the tests that you do yearly at that point, but I didn't. It was just a meeting with the doctor, what my goals were and what I needed to see him for. And then we scheduled a yearly, and then it got canceled because I got my period, and some people may be okay of doing that, but I am not. So I rescheduled, and it was last week. Okay, so before I say anything about the appointment, I want to first start out saying that I have had a yearly since I was 24, and I weighed about 680, okay? So keep that in mind. Other than the very first one I had, which they did that at a hospital facility because they wanted to put me out a little bit because they were going to do a biopsy just due to problems I was having at that time and my mother's history with cervical cancer and things. So outside of that, outside of that, I have had normal, regular yearlies on a table, just like the table that was in this office, over and over again. Okay, so I have gained a little weight since last year, but it's still around the same weight. Okay, and the table was exactly the same. When I lived in Long Island, I had the same doctor for 8 years, and he was so wonderful. He never made me feel out of place. He was just the nicest man you would ever want to meet, and he was a really good doctor, and he was good to me, and I was very sad to leave him. But on the first initial meeting with the new doctor, he was a very kind man. I liked him a lot. He did not put a lot of stress on my weight at that particular visit. He offered me help in wanting to get pregnant, put me on folic acids, told me to get a multivitamin. He really made me hopeful for not only the relationship of doctor-patient, but hopeful for my health, hopeful for my baby making abilities. So we scheduled an appointment, which I said was last week, and I went in. Okay, well, first of all, there was a lot of stress about getting there. I thought I was going to be late. I'm in the car going, and then they canceled that appointment and put me to a later appointment, which I had no choice but to go ahead and go. And then I got there, and then they come out and said, oh, you might see the nurse practitioner. And then they come back out and said, no, she can't do it. And then I waited to see the doctor. So they come get me. Okay, first of all, they do not have a double chair or a bench or anything. They did have one chair without arms, but it was just as comfortable to sit in the chair with arms and be squished than to have the chair without arms and the little pokey knobs going into my butt. I forgot the bumps, the balls or whatever, and chose the arms. And it's very strange because that whole office building is so fat friendly. It has double chairs in almost all the waiting areas, and on the ones that don't, they usually have multiple single chairs, but not the OBGYN for some reason. And you would think where there's pregnant ladies, there would be double chairs, but no, anyway. So that wasn't a big problem. I still could sit in the chairs, whatever. But then I got called back. And the nurse, who I love, she's an older lady, and she's always super sweet to me, and I really like her. She whispers to me, we have to go 2 offices over on the same floor, but still 2 offices over to weigh. I'm like, okay, let's do this. So we go, I weigh, and I walk back, and I go in the room. And this is where I am literally flabbergasted. The table was lowered all the way to the floor. Imagine sitting on a cinder block that low. Okay, so I look at her and I'm like, what's with the table? And she's like, oh, we have to have it down that far. It won't hold your weight. I said to her, I have never had a problem with a table. I said, I've been doing this on these tables for many years now at much higher weights, and I've never had a problem with the table. She's like, I'm sorry, we can't risk you or the doctor being hurt by the table collapsing. I'm like, okay, lady. So I sat down, and then I will give them props. They had a gown that was way too big for me, so I'm sure it would fit a lot heavier. It was a good size gown. I was so happy about that because I know in my old OBGYN's office, I was always just allowed to keep on whatever top I had on because they didn't have gowns that fit me. So I was really pleased with that there was a gown. I had plenty of privacy, and then I waited and waited. And then the doctor come in, and he was cordial as usual, very nice. He kind of just like asked me how I was doing and everything, and then said, are you ready? And I'm like, okay. And then I laid down, and he proceeded. Now, he had to put his stool almost all the way down to the ground to even be able to see the bits, right? And I have really thick thighs, so he would have done so much better if the table had been high. Because me and my other doctor had worked it out where I would scoop my butt, and this is TMI, ladies, but if you're a big lady and you have problems when you go into the gynecologist, or you are scared to go and you haven't gone, here is a few tips. You sit down on the table with your butt right at the edge, and then you lean back, and then the doctor, or if you can do it yourself, will help you put your feet in the stirrups. I don't need help putting my feet in the stirrups, so I took care of that. And and then I just wiggled down a little bit more where my butt was slightly hanging off. And then I know when the doctor is ready to spread my legs as far as possible. Now, I even said, could you please push the stirrups out, because my hips have a lot of pain in them. So I need the stirrups a little bit further out to help encourage me to be able to spread my legs to the point where me and the doctor both could be comfortable. So all of that, then he got in there. So there was a couple of things that I think went wrong. I think the tool that he used was the wrong size. I think it was way too big for me. And the angle of which he was having to do the procedure, it was just not working with my body. And if I had been higher, I don't think I would have had the pain that I had. Now, the pain was not unbearable. I don't want to scare you. It was uncomfortable. And I did have to grip the pillow once because I'm very sensitive. So there was a little bit of pain. And I have to admit, I had never experienced pain other than when I had a female doctor once. I always go to male doctors. That's a big taboo thing. People either love the idea of a man doctor or hate it. It's no in between. For me, hands down, I want a man because women just seem to be rougher. So, all that being said, it was a very uncomfortable situation. And I know as it was a very... So all that being said, I know it was a very uncomfortable situation for the doctor and for me. I felt bad. And this is where I started to feel guilty for the doctors being in this uncomfortable position. But then I stopped and I said, no, I am not supposed to feel guilty over my body. A doctor, over everyone else, should be prepared to handle all sizes. And I think the whole deal about the table was ridiculous. Like, super, super ridiculous. And I was told once by a doctor that all the equipment is labeled for certain sizes, but can hold 100 to 200 pounds more than what it says, just for the ability to keep it in good working order. They put these lower limits so people will be safe. But in certain situations, it is fine to take the risk of going above those weights. Now, yes, let's look at it from the doctor's perspective. I could have got on the table. It could have broke. He could have had damages to his office. That would cost him money. So then there's also, for some people, a possibility of lawsuits. I understand it totally why they did it. It's just hard for me to understand in a day and age when there's so many big bodies, how there are not scales in every office that will weigh up to 1,000 pounds. Let's just face it. There are people out there that need the scales to go up that far. I don't. A nice 500-pound one would be nice, would be satisfied for me, but they didn't. So, the fact that the table didn't work, that's just the chances I took, but I had never, ever prepared myself. I mean, I was not prepared for that to happen because I never had that problem before. So That was a little strange. I'm sharing all these details just to say, if you look up the facts online, you will see that one of the leading causes of death in females are cervical. If you Google cervical cancer, it is one of the leading deaths in women, and it can be prevented. It can be caught early, and it can save your life. These appointments are so important. My mother has had cancer 3 different times, and it was just the fact that they caught it early that she is alive. There was some outside situations that she could not help that caused her cancer for the first one at least, but I'm always so thankful that she had her yearlies and it was caught early and it was prevented from killing her. This means so much to me, this topic. And as a big woman, I did not go to the doctor early enough. I waited till I was 24 before I went back to a gynecologist. I had not seen one since I was 13. I had a very traumatic situation happen when I was 13, and the doctor, if I would have had the right parent, the doctor would have been sued and lost his license. But all that is in the past. I will say, mothers, don't let your 13-year-old daughters have gynecology appointments alone. I will say that. But other than that, I just want to remind you that your body is deserving of doctor care. You are deserving of medical treatment. And it may be a little uncomfortable. Things may have to be arranged differently. But you will be able to get into a doctor. You will be able to see a doctor. They will be able to perform the procedures needed. Like I said, when I was up at 680 in that first appointment, they did it in a hospital operating area so I could be comfortable, so they could get the view, or whatever you want to say, the area in a way that they could do it properly. And I was okay with that because I wanted to know that I was going to live. And that experience taught me so much that, yes, you may have to do very uncomfortable things, but to be at peace of mind that you are not walking around with a form of cancer that could be cured if you only knew about it, that is invaluable. And I just want to beg you, especially, this is for all women, but especially women of size, beg you, schedule your yearly appointments. Go to the doctor. If you need some prepping, if you need some encouragement, message me, DM me, email me. I will talk you through it. I just want to say that this really does mean a lot to me, and it scares me for the ladies and my friends that I know that hasn't been for a yearly, and I'm just begging you to it. Please be preventive. So that is all for now. I hope this has helped you in some way, and that you do go out and you get your yearly. Remember, as always, be your own beautiful. like, comment, and subscribe.